People make mistakes all the time buying a home in Los Angeles, but these are the 5 mistakes that you really need to avoid, even if you're experienced. Hi, my name is Felipe Crook with EXP Realty. I've been a realtor for 20 years, and I have seen people do this over and over again, and here are the things that you need to avoid. The first step is getting a pre-approval letter. Unless you are lucky enough to pay cash for a property, most likely you're going to have to get a mortgage. Now, the first step of the process is always talking to a mortgage broker or a bank. Typically, I like to send my clients to a mortgage broker because they have a lot more options for programs than a typical big box bank does. Typically, a big bank has a very tight parameter that you need to fit into. And if you don't, they probably will not be able to get you financed. But a mortgage broker has a ton of different options. If you are self-employed, or if you don't have a lot of tax returns, but you have a lot of cash flow, they can work around your scenario much easier than a bank can. The reason why a pre-approval is so important is because it sets the budget for the transaction. You don't want to start your search looking at $1 million homes when you can only qualify for an $800,000 home. It leads to a lot of heartache and disappointment, and then you have to readjust all of your expectations. So the first step is always getting pre-approved. That way you know exactly what your budget is. You'll also know how much down payment you're required. You'll also know how much closing costs are required for that typical loan program, what your monthly payment is going to be, roughly. Obviously, you cannot tell you exactly what your payment is going to be because the interest rates fluctuate every single day. Until you lock your loan while you're in contract, then you will know exactly what your monthly payment is going to be. But a mortgage broker can give you an idea pretty accurately of what it will cost to purchase your home. Here's the last thing about getting a pre-approval letter. Let's say you fall in love with a property that is in your budget, but you don't have a pre-approval letter yet, and the offers are due tomorrow. Sometimes it takes 48 to 72 hours to get a pre-approval letter in order for you to be able to submit an offer. Every offer that you submit is going to require your pre-approval letter and proof of funds. So if you don't have that, you probably will not even be considered as an offer because it doesn't look like you have all your ducks in a row. So don't miss out on your dream home just because you didn't get a pre-approval letter. Do that first, and then you can submit an offer on the house that you want. Number 2, ignoring inspections. This is a critical part of the real estate transaction. Now, during the pandemic, it was such a seller's market that in order to compete, in order to get an offer accepted against 30 other offers, a lot of buyers were waiving their inspection periods, their appraisal contingencies, their loan contingencies. It was absolutely insane. And I never, ever advocate to waive your inspections. It is your time to figure out if this property is actually worth what you're paying for and is in good condition. There are so many things that can go wrong in a house, and you want to know exactly what is happening in that property. I see this happen all the time when a client falls in love with a property and then they do their inspections and they realize, oh, wow, there's a roof that needs to be replaced. There's plumbing that is broken. There's new electrical panels that needs to be installed, or something was not done up to code, or there was an addition on the property that wasn't permitted. All of these things are things that you find out during the inspection period. It is so important to make sure that you thoroughly investigate this property. At minimum, the 4 inspections that I always recommend to clients are a general home inspection, a chimney inspection if there is a fireplace, termite inspection, and a sewer inspection. Those are like the big 4 inspections that I always recommend for clients to move forward. There are a lot of other inspections that you can do as well, including a survey, a soils test, a structural engineer. If you're on a hillside, you definitely want to do that. And we have a ton of hills here in Los Angeles. You want to make sure that your house is not going to slide down on the next earthquake. All of these things are absolutely critical during the real estate transaction, and never, never waive your inspection if you have the option. 2 years ago, things were so crazy that buyers were just waiving everything in order to get an accepted offer. I never, ever tell clients to waive their inspection unless they are 100% sure that they're going to buy this house no matter what kind of repairs are needed. but it is a very risky proposition and I do not recommend it for anybody. The number 3 mistake that I see people make is not doing enough location research. They just see a house on the internet, they drive by, they're like, oh, this is a perfect house, but they neglected to look at what is around the property. Their doctor is 45 minutes away. The nearest grocery store is 15 minutes away. There's no walking trails. There's no amenities that you looked for. These things are really important because you are living in this property, most likely, unless you're buying it as an investment property, then you might not care. But if you are living in this property, you want to make sure that the area is the kind of lifestyle that you want to live. If you are looking for a walkable home in a walkable neighborhood, then buying something that requires a car is not going to suit your needs. You make sure that your needs and your must-haves lists tie into your location research. Along with doing some location research, you want to see what is happening in the area. How are sales? Are sales slower? Are they depreciating in value? Are they appreciating rapidly? Are there new developments happening in the neighborhood that will increase your value? These are all things that you want to consider anytime that you're purchasing a property here in the Los Angeles area. Number 4 is falling for emotional traps. I see this all the time. Someone will walk into a property and they will be enamored. However, they didn't realize that there was an apartment complex right behind there, which will negatively affect the value. But they don't think about these things because it's love at first sight. There are a couple other emotional traps, like being overattached. I have seen so many buyers when they're getting into bidding wars, when they're so in love with a property that they're willing to spend everything to get it, probably to the point where it's not worth what they're paying for, but they are so attached and so entrenched in this house that they're going to do whatever it takes. Make sure that you take a breath and listen to your professional who is going to give you advice on what the property is worth and give you some strategies on what to do and what to offer. I see this one happen a lot as well. It's called the sunk cost fallacy. Anytime you're purchasing a property, there's going to be some upfront cost to the buyer. You're going to have to pay for your appraisal. You're going to have to pay for your inspection costs. And sometimes a buyer will think, well, I've already put in this money, might as well go through with the transaction, even if there are big red flags on this property. Make sure that you learn to walk away from a property if there are huge red flags that are going to cost you a lot in the long run. I always say the inspection and the appraisal cost are worth their weight in gold, because then you will know if the house that you're purchasing is worth it, or you can walk away from the property during your inspection period. And the 5th one is ignoring future needs. If you have a small budding family and it's starting to grow and you buy a 2-bedroom home, you're probably not thinking into the future. I always tell people real estate is a long-term investment. It's 5 to 7 years. So if you are planning to grow your family, then you might want to have a 3-bedroom house instead of a 2-bedroom house. Things like that are really important to think of, because you're going to be in this property for statistically 5 to 7 years before you move on to another property. Unless you're buying a property that this is your dream house, you will never move, which almost always you will move. But if you're going to stay here really, really long term, you need to think about all of the things that you will need in the future. So these are the 5 mistakes that you should avoid if you're buying a house here in Los Angeles area. I get calls all the time for people wanting to move into Silver Lake in Los Angeles. So reach out to me if you're looking for a home in and or around Silver Lake, Echo Park, or Los Feliz. And my number is in the description down below. My name is Felipe Crook, investing in your dreams.